this morning I changed it again. Because I really like the idea of, in religious science and philosophy is change your thinking, change your life. And we can whine and complain about everything we see around, everything happening, but, unless somebody gets out and does something, it's not going to change. And so we can be that change, we can be that love or whatever we're seeking in the world today. And today, this week, the focus is, the topic was focused on a phrase by Earnest Holmes that we believe that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. And I love the idea, the old, because I was raised Lutheran, Wisconsin Synod Lutheran too, and they were very strong heaven and hell people. And I always questioned that. I never verbally questioned, but within, there's a lot of things I realize as I go on further in more in religious science of the things that I actually internally question, which really actually make sense now. Like one thing, why is there all these other religions if we're like I know the Catholic religion does this, and I think the Lutherans, I think a lot of them do, they're the one true religion. Well, if they're the one true religion, why in the heck are all these other ones around? What is their purpose? And that was one of the first things, one of the first services I went to at Center for Spiritual Living at Sandpoint when Reverend Kathy Ann was up there, and she was saying about other religions, and not negative, but giving thanks. And I had also gone to a Unity church where the same, and I'm going, whoa, what's this? It's so out of the norm. But then I said, oh, I'm not crazy. Because we take from what we can use from other religions. Because there's good in other religions. There's good in other philosophies. You don't have to buy the whole package, the whole store, but there are certain things in there that we can take and we can hang on to and we can use. And it's so simple. It may not be easy sometimes. Like I say, religious science is simple, but it's not always easy to be a religious scientist. And the idea of that, the heaven within. And I firmly believe this. I mean, if I look back through my life, the example of creating my own heaven and hell. It's amazing what we can do. We are such powerful creatures, Our minds and our bodies, our hearts, we are just, just something that is I'm in awe in a lot of times. Because I think the body, for one thing, is such a fantastic instrument, the physical part of it. What it all does, how it all connects, how we walk, how we move, how we talk, all this. It's just, to me, it blows my mind sometimes when I start to think about it. One time, I was taking the little dog I had out for her little walk, and she was doing her business, and all of a sudden, it was a very strange thing happened. I go, whoa. People say there's not a higher power, not a God, whatever. But then they said, I look at this little creature. And it's just like us. We eat, we ingest food, we ingest liquid. Our bodies do with it what it will, because they're very intelligent. The body knows what to do with it, and disregards what we don't need. How simple is that? And where did that come from? It's just phenomenal. And this idea of creating and experiencing our own heaven. Sometimes we don't believe we deserve it. If we're going to have our good, then you're not going to have yours, or you may not get all of yours, maybe a little bit. And that's not true, because there's enough to go around in this universe. And if we allow others to experience their heaven and their hell, whichever they choose, to me it's all about allowing others, letting others be who they are. And there's a thing, and I posted this on Facebook the other day because to me it was very appropriate. It's from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's about acceptance. about accepting a person, place, and situation, until I can do that as being exactly as it's supposed to be in that moment, or the person to be exactly as they are in that moment, then basically, it doesn't say it, but my interpretation, I can't be free. I can't experience my heaven if I'm not allowing others. And that doesn't, by accepting does not mean that I love it. I even like it. I don't have to invite them over for dinner. I don't have to buy them a birthday present. But I'm allowing that person, that place, that situation to be exactly who they are in that moment. And that sometimes is so hard to do, because we want to be right. I've been listening to a lot of different things, and the one thing is that we want to be right. We don't want to be wrong. Our beliefs, our thoughts, everything is, we are right. Maybe the other person's right too. I learned that a long time ago because I always thought that I was, if I didn't agree with this friend of mine, and I've shared this before, and I keep remembering it and I told him, I said, I always thought if I didn't agree with you, that I was wrong. Always putting myself wrong. And he laughed, and it was kind of like, what are you laughing at, However, it was, after you think about it, it is funny that I'm allowing that power of someone else, they didn't see it that way, that I was wrong. It was my own internal thing. It's that whole inside job of life that we do to ourselves. And like you created your job. You can keep that or something better. That's the whole thing in religious science too. We think we want this or that, and sometimes we just want the symbol of that, what that represents. And so when we do treatment, which is with prayer, we try to always say this or something better. Because sometimes the universe knows a little bit more than we do. I have to agree, I have been shown, it's been demonstrated that what I thought might be my good actually came out better, because the universe thought this would be better for me. And I didn't say no to it. Sometimes I go, whoa, do I deserve this? Because a lot of times we fall back into that little, I don't deserve this, I'm not worthy, and all that lovely stuff that we do to ourselves. And this one quote here by Earnest Holmes too, I really appreciate, because it says, heaven is a state of happiness. It is complete freedom from all discord of every nature. And how can we not love that, Discord from every nature, to release that, to let it go, to not take it on. And I applaud the two of you there for saying, when you shared about, you're not allowing outside influences in your life at this moment. And that's the second part of my title I came up, can we experience heaven within despite outside appearances? What's going on around us? I don't care if you're on the left, on the right, or down the middle. It's affecting everybody. And can we allow ourselves to do that? To experience that with what's going on? And I love what you're doing. You're doing self-care. You're saying, okay, I don't need this. I don't want to be bombarded with all this. And I have listened and watched, and it's like, I think it's like being in a war zone. I mean, I was in a war zone, but I didn't actually do any physical fighting, but it's like, you feel like the bombs are coming in, around you. Mm-hmm. And it's very disturbing, because I have not experienced stuff like this, I think, ever in my life. I mean, I've experienced a lot of different things, but this is a whole different situation. In my Toastmasters group on Friday, I almost didn't go, because they're a pretty chatty bunch, pretty, you were talking about Wednesday night. But one thing about it was a huge therapy session, and it was good, because it's kind of like this place. It's a safe place. It's a safe place to share. And the question was, we do this thing called table topics. And some groups do it, it's like you speak up to a minute, but normally it's like 1 to 2 minutes. And the question was, what did you learn about yourself after that, after the election, after the results? And that was, I mean, that opened up, I mean, people were just, you know, actually everybody, I think everybody did share. And that doesn't always happen, we don't always have time, but Friday we had enough time where people, and everybody went over, you know, everybody was longer than what the time then said. But they were willing to share that, and I think if we can do that, can share what's going on, and look at, okay, what did I learn about myself? What did I learn about like my friends, my families, my community, actually my country? What are the lessons learned? And it's unbelievable sometimes what comes out of it. This little, sometimes little nuggets. And Reverend Vaughn was speaking about a spiritual bypass, and I think that's a bunch of crap. I'm not what he was saying, but the spiritual bypass, because you're not allowing yourself to feel your feelings. And to me, that's what the grieving process is about. To allow yourself to feel it. Because like when you have a death in your family, or, you know, even a pet, or anything of loss, you have to have a time of grieving. And nobody can tell you how long that's going to take. For some it can take, you know, a few days, others it's going to take years. But to deny yourself that, to deny yourself that whole process of feeling. Because if we, like I've learned through through several deaths I've had in my life, that if you don't deal with it, it's going to get you. And then when another one happens, oh my God, that, you know, it's like, well, I was going to say it's like interest in a bank, but you know, who gets that anymore? It compounds, and it builds up. And just like I heard somebody say something about a volcano, you know, all that pressure builds up, and I believe that's exactly what's happened in the country. And if I'm open my mind, that's the thing. One thing I learned about myself, that I need to be more open, and more open to others' issues. Not that I have to get out and do everything about it, but actually sometimes all people want to do is be heard. And that's why I'm, you know, like these protests that are going on. Somebody said, well, what's the use of it? I said, you know what? That's one of our rights. You know, I don't believe in the violence, but they're expressing their feelings. They're expressing, you know, what's going on with them. And I don't see a thing wrong with that. I actually applaud that, because I have not done that. My sister, it was interesting, Wednesday my sister texted me from Wisconsin and asked if we were out, you know, protesting, because she was watching it on TV. And it's really, it's interesting what people need to do. The violence I don't agree with. I don't agree with violence, period. But making a statement and allowing others to make their statements, that's one of the hardest things for me, I have to say, is because I want to be right. My way is the only way. I don't really believe that, but sometimes I think I do. I think there's a little part of me that's saying, okay, you're wrong, you know, you're wrong, you know, and but the idea of not allowing ourselves to feel our feelings, because if we don't do that, we're not going to be able to experience that heaven that's within, because it's going to be all bottled up. It's going to, and that's what causes disease, you know. The dis-ease within us is when we hold things in, and then eventually, like the volcano, it's going to erupt, and we're going to erupt. I know I'm one that bottles stuff up. Well, I'm getting better. I have to say that. I am getting better. Years and years ago, I would bottle things up so much because one thing, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to say something I'll be sorry for. And when you say something, sometimes in the heat of anger, things come out, and you may have meant what you said, however, the way it came out and the way you said it, parts of it you maybe wanted to say, but other parts you didn't want it to come out like that. You really didn't. And then you're sorry and all this, and you can't, once it's out the mouth, I mean, I'm sorry, ain't no going back. You can't hit the rewind button or the delete button. It's out there. And so I just encourage people to do that, to allow yourself your feelings, to go through the process of grieving, go through the process of joy, whatever it is, whatever in your life where you need to do. And the whole thing is that in religious science too, we believe, we create situations, we create our lives. And we're not the only part of that. A lot of it is, it's what we call the race consciousness. And it's built on generations before and generations before that. That all that, not just because you really thought it, maybe you had a little inkling, but there's a greater consciousness out there. When you get a mass of people together, and they're pretty much all of one mind and one consciousness, that's huge. So sometimes I think we get down on ourselves for, how did I create that? Or what was in my consciousness? What was I thinking? But you may be thinking it, but you're not the only one. It was a groupie. So that part. And the biggest thing I just want to invite people to do is the self-care. Be gentle with yourself. Do what you need to do. And practice love and kindness for yourself, for others. And don't allow the fear to disable you, to cripple you, because that's what it does. We get into this idea of so much fear. What's going to happen? I'm going to fear all this, fear the worst, And yes, things may change. I predict they probably will change. Because life is change. And the thing about it, if we don't like it, we can try to do something about it. We can stand up. We can be heard. So just take care of yourself. Love one another, because I do believe that love wins. And so